Hi, it's Paul. So growing a business organically really is tough, and even for some of the best businesses, growing at 20% a year organically, it would take 5 years to double in size, whereas you could double in size in an afternoon by just acquiring a competitor. So, mergers and acquisitions can really accelerate market share, both capabilities geographically and also margins, and it can certainly increase shareholder value, which really comes from buying and integrating and exiting well. So yeah, mergers and acquisitions really works best when the core business is stable, cash flow is predictable, and management bandwidth exists. M&A can also destroy value when it's used to hide organic weakness, maybe driven by ego or fear, or the integration strategy capability is missing. So M&A is really a strategy, not a rescue plan. So when we look at a new project, we start with the end in mind. So what is the 3 to 5 year objective? Is it an exit? Is it dividend yield? Is it market dominance? What does success look like at exit? And we then use that to define the strategic rationale. So in general, we see M&A themes as you sort of buy customers, buy capability, buy capacity, buy geography, buy margin. And then we sort of design the criteria off the back of that. So, size, revenue range, EBITDA, industry adjacency, margin profile, recurring versus transactional revenue, management strength, integration complexity, and any red flags to exclude early on in the process. And I find that good M&A is really probably saying no to 90% of the deals. There's lots of deals out there, but trying to find the really good ones, they're few and far between. So we typically tend to stay away from broker-led deals because we find proprietary sourcing gives us less competition, better pricing, and probably a better cultural fit. So, we're thinking customers, suppliers, competitors, industry databases, and then doing that cold outreach. And we use this to build a repeatable sourcing engine. And then it's really about buying well. So by that, I mean that most SMEs typically sell on a multiple of EBITDA or EBIT. There are some nuances, but for most, that's how transactions are typically structured. And value creation really comes from that sort of multiple arbitrage. So when you drive the cost synergies, post-transaction, revenue synergies, I think it's quite important to have a sort of walk away price when you're entering into a transaction so that you don't end up overpaying for hope. And at the end of the day, structure tends to beat price. So, building in earnouts or deferred consideration or maybe vendor rollover equity can be, the thing that bridges the getting the deal over the line. Funding these acquisitions typically does tend to follow cash flow, debt, equity, and seller financing. All of that matches funding to risk. So, avoid over leveraging. Remember, ultimately lenders are looking to fund cash flow and assets, not vision. So satisfy yourself that the deal is worth doing. So it's really about conducting thorough due diligence. Financial due diligence is quite key to verify the quality of earnings. The commercial side of due diligence is to really look at customer churn, customer concentration, risk. Operational is to see that they've got the right systems and people in place. And I think an area of due diligence that's often overlooked, but also quite difficult to undertake, is the cultural due diligence. And if it's ignored, it can often be fatal. So, yeah. DD is really about confirming the thesis. And then once a deal's done, its integration is where the value is made or lost. So to be frank, finding and doing deals is easy. The hard part is really the integration and driving the synergies. So planning it before signing is key. Key integration areas are, leadership systems, brands, sale processes, finance. So we typically tend to have a 100-day plan, and it really starts with protecting customers and staff first. I'm a strong believer that what gets measured gets delivered. So you want to get a plan on what cost synergies are. Can it be obtained from the back office or through procurement? We want to identify revenue synergies, so look at cross and upselling, and we then sort of track this over time. And then this is a repeatable model, so you can scale through buy and build. Repeatability is the edge, finding a good platform and then bolting on tactical strategic acquisitions. This is really what ultimately unlocks that multiple arbitrage, because you're probably buying at 1.5 to 4 times multiple, but you're looking to sell for 6 to 8 times. Common M&A mistakes that I see that sort of destroy this value is not having that integration plan, or the business being very much reliant and dependent on the owner, overpaying, being a cultural mismatch, poor communications, or ultimately letting the deal excitement override the discipline. So yeah, M&A is part of the exit story as buyers pay a premium for scale, systems, and reduced risk. So yeah, I suppose to summarize, M&A is not about volume, but strategy, discipline, and integration. Done well, it can compress decades of organic growth into a few years. You ultimately don't create shareholder value by doing deals. You create it by doing the right deals the right way and integrating them properly. So look, if you've liked this video, do give it the thumbs up. It really helps the channel. If you want to get notified when the next video is out, do click subscribe. And if you're interested in mergers and acquisitions, you can join our free Dealmaker community. The link's in the description below, where you can connect directly with me and hundreds of dealmakers around the world. Just clicking the link in the description below. So for now, yeah, happy deal making.